Good to have you back. You're still watching Smart Means Business. It's a cold morning, and of course, in most parts of Uganda, it did kick off with some rains at around around 5. So,
for those who weren't updated,
you
wake up and they're like, oh.
And the traffic flow, as of now, you get to realize it's just picking up, which shows you most people have just now hit the road.
Yeah.
Definitely. And anyone who's still home should be very, very cautious about that before they start moving. But anyways, now we turn our focus on what is happening from Karibu, East Africa, that is giving you updates that are coming in within the East African region. And one of which we start off with the East African central banks that are considering adopting a digital currency to hasten cross-border payments. And they believe that this will reduce costs as a digital revolution sweeps across Africa's banking sector. Now, the region has been pushing for integration to bolster intra-regional trade and investments, which are running into headwinds from tariff and non-tariff barriers. Now, the East African payment system and the regional payments and settlement system are also facing challenges due to low uptake by member countries like Kenya and Uganda, controlling close to 90% of the transactions through the systems. And there is also a latest study by the African Banker magazine in collaboration with the engagement banking platform Backbase, which shows that Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, and Rwanda are part of the growing list of the African central banks, which are focused on implementing a central bank digital currency, or what you call a CBDC. Now, a CBDC is a digital currency issued by a central bank, and it is actually intended to serve as a legal tender, according to the African Digital Banking Report of 2023. This was actually released earlier this week, as Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Madagascar, Zimbabwe, Eswatini, Namibia, and Zambia are still conducting research on the operations of a central bank digital currency, while South Africa and Ghana are piloting the concept. Now, Nigeria became the first country in Africa to launch a CBDC. That was last year in October 25th. 2 years back in 2021 on October 25th. And the second to run a CBDC that is fully open to the public after the Bahamas. In 2022, the Central Bank of Kenya launched a research paper on the feasibility of a digital currency, arguing that cross-border payments are often slow and expensive, and that interoperable CBDCs could lead to efficiency gains. And of course, when you come to think of it as well, is that the East African payment system was launched in May 2014 and was largely meant to enhance regional currency convertibility by reducing currency conversion costs related to the use of the US dollar, with a review to promoting intra-regional trade and as part of a preparation for implementing a single currency regime in the East African community. However, by the look of things, the system is being delayed and suffering a low uptake. Now on the screen currently, what you're seeing is basing on what is being looked at on the entire African continent and the East African continent as well, in regards to the uptake of the digital currency, or what they intend to follow up on the same in case it does happen. And also, according to the Central Bank of Kenya, for example, in collaboration with other regional governments, including that of Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, is they're in need to identify the usage of the East African payment systems, and they want to see how they can boost and try to develop solutions to promote regional trade within East Africa. Now, when you look at the editorial team of the African Banker, which surveyed over 153 African banks in 33 countries, they analyzed the latest developments in digital banking transformation, tracking pace of change and the means by which banks are creating mobile and internet banking capabilities. Now, according to the survey, half of the banks, that is 51%, regarded digital transformation as the most important factor in their growth strategy in 2023. Besides that, the majority are actually spending more than $3 million, which is a year, on digital transformation and innovation. And you can easily see most of the banks in East Africa, and of course, even those here in Uganda, when you look at most of the strongest banks that we have, their main focus now is looking at the digital uptake. And here, most of the central banks now in East Africa do think it is better. I don't know if this would be very important, but the mere fact that our currencies differ once you cross to Kenya,
Tanzania,
you know you have to change to Kenyan shillings, and the Kenyan shillings is a bit more stronger than ours. And then when you move to Tanzania again, you know the exchange rates are quite different a bit. So most of the central banks believe if we get one uniform digital currency, it will be a very important thing to take. But of course, by 2030, we also expect to have a uniform currency that will be coming up, and who knows, maybe the central banks will be able to work upon that as we continue to give you more of these particular updates coming in from Karibu, East Africa this morning.
Well, shifting our eyes to Tanzania, Tanzania is targeting the Chinese tourism market to boost the visitors' numbers. Like I said, China and African countries, like most of the social media does it, they are...
They're moving like a pair. A pair made in heaven.
Most
lately.
of the African countries are shifting their eyes to assistances to China. Essentially, it has made them itself available for most of African countries. Now, Tanzania aims to increase its tourism from China's outbound travel sector by utilizing its long-standing established links with East Africa, Asia nation. Now, about 150 million Chinese people go abroad each year, making China the country with most visitors in the world, which is actually true, I must say. Only a small percentage of Chinese visitors come to Tanzania. By the end of this year, Tanzania Tourism Board, TTB, anticipates that 45,000 Chinese tourists will have traveled there. That is being optimistic and being positive.
That's a huge number they're targeting actually.
but it's okay. It's a good move. It's a good move.
Yeah.
Now, however, according to the Minister of Natural Resources and Tourism, Mohammed Mchengwere, that said he wants more work to be done to get more and more Chinese visitors to Tanzania so that they may experience the country's many tourist attractions, from wildlife safaris to beautiful beaches. According to Mchengera, top companies in Asia economic powerhouse, which yearly handle 10 million outbound travelers, are where the travel agents of travel agencies are now operating in the nation best. Now the government has developed a plan to promote its tourist attractions in China and other growing countries in Asia in the recent years. To add on, direct flights to China have been launched, and strong marketing operations have also been organized by the Tanzania Embassy in Beijing and other parties. Salim, manager Air Tanzania Company Limited, ATCL, for Arusha and Moshi, said the national airline has implemented a 50% discount for flights to China. This is quite interesting. I like the partnership. I like the moves they are making, the understandings that are making. Now, currently, ATCL, that is the Air Tanzania Company Limited, offers 3 non-stop flights each week between Dar es Salaam and Gaohu, a major commercial hub in southern China. At the height of the epidemic, the flights were halted during the pandemic. By May, actually, was it last week, 11th of May 2023, they were supposed to start up again. Now, on Friday last week, a group of Chinese travel agents and many journalists began their familiarization tour to Zanzibar. The organization that hosted them, the Zanzibar Commission for Tourism, ZCT, applauded the effort and said it would introduce Tanzania, to the Chinese market. Now, since the COVID-19 outbreak in 2019, this was the first group of Chinese travel brokers. That is according to Ms. Hasfa Mbambe, the executive director of Zanzibar Commission Tourism. According to the Natural Resources Tourism Ministry, inbound travelers from China alone would help the nation reach its goal of 5 million tourists by 2025. based on their third national 5-year development plan, which covers the years 2021 to 2026. The objective for the 5 million tourism per year would produce $6 billion. This is quite interesting. People boosting their tourism industry. We see, I mean, it's a huge opportunity actually. Now that they're targeting the Chinese community.
Yes.
That means they are targeting by the end of 2025, they will have hit a target of $6 billion US dollars, which is quite interesting. Actually, I feel like if we could do what Tanzania is doing, actually, we could be rich.
I think they're targeting a very huge amount of money in there, and also the mere fact that they're actually targeting 5 million tourists per year. So they've also set a target of the tourists they want to get. Of course, they are looking at destinations. They want to attract tourists coming in from China, because by the look of things, over 150 million Chinese move every year.
Yeah,
so if you're to look at that, you want to target a movement of at least, out of the 150 million that are moving, for example, the Chinese globally, you would wish at least 100 million or 50 million, you never know, are coming to Tanzania. So you have to create an atmosphere or a tourism kind of, in the long run, you will see other countries following suit. But lastly, from Karibu, East Africa this morning, we head to the Kenya Revenue Authority in Kenya, which is targeting a record 16 billion Kenyan shillings in betting taxes as in the gaming, betting, and lottery business taxes in the next financial year as they tighten revenue leakages within the betting sector. Now, the new tax is actually targeting the industry, which is 250 million shillings higher than the collections that were expected in the current financial year. But also besides that, when you look at it, if realized, betting, gaming, and lottery will be one of the fastest growing pockets of tax revenue, having grown from just 2.9 billion Kenyan shillings in the financial year 2020-2021, an indication of the low-hanging source of the tax the government has increasingly tapped to meet its revenue needs. Now, these higher collections will be realized through amendments to the Income Tax Act and the Excise Duty Act. The Finance Bill of 2023 proposes to amend the Income Tax Act to provide the definition of the word winnings, includes the amount that is wagged, implying the punters will be subject to withholding taxes on the gross amount paid, as opposed to the present situation where they're only taxed on the amount won and over above the amount asked. The bill also seeks to amend the excise duty to increase the tax on stakes from 7.5% to 20%. Now, the Treasury proposals seek to address the challenges it has previously run into the corridors of justice regarding the definition of the word winnings within the context of betting, gaming, and lottery. Now, in the case, Commission of Domestic Taxes versus Pavans East Africa and 6 others in 2019, the High Court ruled the winnings refer to payouts by the license but do not include amounts staked by the bettor. Now, tax pundits now say that even as presently worded in the Finance Bill of 2023, the matter is bound to run into headwinds based on the canons of taxation. Now, the proposed changes to the excise tax come at a time when the Kenyan Revenue Authority has integrated its systems with those of betting firms to ensure real-time collection of tax with the first-time phase of the integration onboarding 16 betting firms. Now, currently, the Kenya Revenue Authority collects an average of 120.4 billion Kenyan shillings in excise taxes annually, with financial services transactions, airtime, and beer accounting for the lion's share at 26.6%, then the 25.6% and 17.8% respectively. So by the look of things, they're actually setting a target of what they should get from the betting sector, inclusive of which lottery and and the related issues there. So Kenya Revenue Authority are setting their targets quite high for the next financial year. And well, that's it for Karibu East Africa this morning. We now cross our eyes to the international space. But with the international space, we will start off with what Masika Sime has got for us this morning, because we have quite a lot of information coming in away from Uganda.
Well, we're going to start off with good news actually in Lagos, that is in Nigeria. Now, Africa's largest oil refinery was commissioned in Lagos, Nigeria. It means in Africa we have something good for ourselves. Now, Nigeria's President Muhammad Buhari, that is a few days ago on Monday, commissioned an oil plant billed as Africa's largest oil refinery after years of delays and week before setting down from office. Built by Africa's richest person, Aliko Dangote, in the commercial hub of Lagos. The refinery should begin operations in June, that is next month, with the first products expected on market by August. We're still in this year, though some analysts say it could be later. Anyway, we shall see with the course of time. At once at a full capacity, it will have the ability to process 650 barrels a day, that is according to their company. Now, Buhari, who steps down in May, that is actually this month, this week, 29th, after 8 years of office, described the project as a notable milestone. Indeed, it's a notable milestone, I should say, as well, and a game changer for the downstream petroleum products on market, not only in Nigeria but also in the entire African continent. Now, the president of Ghana, Niger, Togo, Senegal, and a representative of the Ghanaian leader were present at this commissioning. The refinery is expected to meet Nigeria's domestic demand as well as serve global markets. That was according to Dangote. Now, for decades, Africa's most populous nation and one of the continent's largest crude producers has depended on fuel imports to meet local demand because of the underperforming state-run refineries. Nigeria swaps crude worth millions of dollars for gasoline that is then subsidies for its domestic market. Now, this has caused a huge drain on foreign exchange at a time of dwindling oil revenue following the new facility laying on 2,636 hectares. That is 6,500 acres of land in Lucky Free Zone, was initially estimated to cost $9 billion, but some $18.5 billion has been spent to complete it. That is according still to the company. Now, the pipeline is also expected to create a corridor for evacuation of trapped gas from the offshore platforms and allow them money for the production of this oil. Also, on the massive complex is a $20 billion fertilizer plant with a 3 million tons per annum capacity. Now, more than 10,000 direct and indirect jobs are expected to be created throughout this project. That was according to the Lagos state government. Yes, this is quite interesting actually for Africa to have one of the largest oil refineries, and we see it's actually going to benefit some of the locals in Nigeria because it's going to create opportunities, job opportunities for most. Actually, they say 10,000 actually direct or indirect job opportunities for locals in Nigeria.
Well, when you can think of it, over 100 direct and indirect jobs in here, 100,000. That's quite a huge amount of jobs that are actually going to be provided. But also, you know, the other twist about this is the fact that it has cost huge billions to put up. The estimation was $9 billion.
And it went beyond.
Then it went beyond, double
doubled
the figure to $18.5 billion, which was spent to complete it, according to the revelations of the company. And well, of course, it is in Lekki, the Lekki Free Zone in Lagos. But obviously, it becoming Africa's largest refinery. We as Uganda, if you're to look at the fact that we are having an oil and gas discussion, these are things that we have to look at and benchmark pretty much. And I think now this takes us back to the reason as to why we have most of the Nigerians taking part in our oil conversations here in Uganda as we look forward to the 2025 mark, when we expect our first drop of oil. But besides that, as we are summing up with what is coming in from the international space, we now head to the United Kingdom, where the International Monetary Fund, which had earlier on come up at the start of the year that the global economies will be heading into recession. Now, apparently, what the IMF has actually revealed is that the United Kingdom economy is likely to avoid this set of recession. And of course, they actually say that the UK economy is set to grow by 0.4% in 2023, whereas last month it forecast the economy would contract by 0.3%. Growth would be helped by resilient demand and falling energy prices. And the International Monetary Fund said that inflation remains stubbornly high, and that the higher interest rates will need to remain in place if it is to be brought down. It also noted that the risks for the UK economy are considerable, with the biggest danger greater than anticipated persistence in price and wage setting, which would keep inflation higher for longer. Now, the International Monetary Fund also added that the United Kingdom must address the record numbers of people not working, many of whom they actually believe have long-term illnesses. And not only that, the IMF said that its growth upgrade was helped by faster than usual pay growth, falling energy costs, and the normalization of global supply chains. However, it further noted that while outlook for growth had improved in recent months, it remains subdued. Now, the International Monetary Fund also forecasts that the economy will grow by 1% in 2024, rising to 2% in 2025 and 2026 respectively. It also predicts that the inflation will not return to the Bank of England's 2% target until maybe mid-2025. That is what the IMF does predict now, which is now later than it forecast previously at the start of the year. The IMF works to stabilize pretty much the global economy, and one of its key roles is to act as an early economic warning system. But also, if you're to look at it, last year, the fund openly criticized the short-lived plans by the UK government, which was led by Liz Truss, for tax cuts. It said the measures which were unveiled in September mini-budget but quickly scrapped were likely to fuel the cost of living crisis. Now, in its latest focus, the IMF also recommended that all major fiscal policy changes should be accompanied by OBR forecast, unless the OBR assessed that they were not necessary. Earlier on Tuesday, yesterday, official figures showed that the UK government borrowing hit higher than expected, 25.6 billion in April. And the second highest borrowing figure for the first month records began in 1993. That's close to 20 years back, rather 30 years back. Now, the borrowing figure, which represents the difference between spending and tax income, was 11.9 billion pounds, which is more than that for the same month last year, with inflation pushing up interest payments on debt, partly to blame. And obviously, as you look at the fact that globally, the entire world is still facing inflation, and Uganda's inflation, something to note about it is the fact that it's dropping a little bit. And by the end of the year, maybe if it drops by 5%, you will see some good changes, because at least now prices are stabilizing, others are dropping as well. But as we are now summing up with the international updates, remember to be part of the investing world by investing in government bonds and securities. Remember, with the MTN subscribers now, you can invest anywhere you are at. That is between 8:15 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. when the markets are open. That is with the ZAB platform. Remember, if you want to register with the platform, use your national identification number, and after registration, you'll be able to grow your investments with Zabu. Zabu says, my money, my future, Altex East Africa, do something new. Markets are fully closed during the weekends and on public holidays. Zabu, my money, my future. After the break, we return with more updates. and more business trends. Good morning.